Hey everyone, this is Miguel. I just wanted to take this time before starting and on behalf of Manscaped-Trio, thank everyone that is in the medical field, but especially nurses, since it is Nurses Week. They really do deserve our appreciation, not just this week, but every single day for all the stuff they deal with that we're not even aware of, especially during this pandemic. We are doing this potty through Zoom again, due to the circumstances, so we apologize for the audio. Hope you enjoy. Thank you. All right, guys, this is Miguel with the Manscaped podcast, Manscaped-Trio. With us, we have CJ.
What up, what up, what up?
We have Eric.
What's up?
Hey. So, still going through Zoom. We're still practicing our social distancing. But, guys, we got a special guest. Not one,
And ladies.
not two, but three special guests on this podcast. We have with
Our
us,
first ever guest.
huh?
Our first ever guest.
Yes, these are our first guests, and they are ladies. So with us, we have my beautiful wife, Krista.
Hey, everybody.
We have Brittany
Hey guys.
and Fabiola.
Hello.
Yeah. So, yeah, Tulsa, and Fabiola's from Kansas City. So she's joining us through Zoom from all the way out in Kansas City. So thank you guys so much. Thank you guys so much for coming with us. We thought it would be a really cool idea to have them with us because, as a lot of people know, it is Nurses Week. So since it is Nurses Week, why not have three nurses join us?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So to kind of get a little bit of information from you guys, we can start off by asking the nurses, what kind of got you guys into nursing? We'll start off with Krista. What is it that motivated you to become a nurse?
So my mom was a nurse, or is a nurse still, and I honestly never wanted to become a nurse because I saw how stressful her life was. And it wasn't until I was in college trying to figure out what I wanted to do, and my dad got really sick. And I would change shifts with my mom at the hospital, and I had no idea what to ask. I had no idea what was going on. And he honestly was my inspiration to become a nurse.
Oh, so you, as a little bit later, older in life,
Yeah.
you decided to become a nurse, huh?
Yeah, I almost wanted to be cosmetologist and do hair, but that
Wow.
wasn't my calling.
I'll tell you what, free haircuts wouldn't be too bad. So yeah, very nice, very good to hear. Brittany, how about yourself? What made you want to become a nurse?
So it was 8th grade career day, and I was talking to just different people at different stations. There was a nurse, she was a labor and delivery nurse, and she just talked about what an absolute blessing and gift it was to bring life into the world, and it sounded like the most rewarding career that I could possibly choose. So I always wanted to be a nurse. However, when I got actually into nursing, I realized real quick babies was not going to be my gift. So I've been an ICU nurse for, it'll be 8 years in July.
Wow.
Nice.
Very long time. How about you, Krista? You didn't say how long you've been a nurse?
Yeah, so I've been a orthopedic and spine nurse for about 3 years now, and going on my first year as the charge. And the past 6 weeks, I've been on the COVID unit, helping out over there.
Ooh. How about you, Fabiola? What made you want to become a nurse?
I've always wanted to take care of people just because I have that passion to take care and that comfort was naturally. And I actually started as an EMT before I was a nurse. And I realized that it wasn't something that I wanted to do. So I got into nursing school and I started my nursing career. I'm actually an LPN and I'm still planning on pursuing my career as a nurse and further my education to become an RN. So I've worked a little bit of med-surg and geriatrics, and I've just really loved it. And it's been very rewarding, everything that I've done so far. I've been a nurse for 4 years, and it's just something that I will continue loving and doing, and I'm just very grateful for everything that I've done.
Nice, nice. So you
That
threw
is
out a
awesome.
couple acronyms there. So what is it? Tell people what LPN and RN stand for.
So LPN is a licensed practical nurse. So it's 1 year. Whenever I got my LPN, I was actually in a 2-year program to get my RN. But when I got my LPN, I left school and then we moved, and I never got to finish my RN program. And so RN is a registered nurse. So there's just a couple of differences that you don't get to do as an LPN. But I became IB certified in Texas when I worked there, and I got to do a lot of things that an RN would do. Like pretty much, there's not much of a difference, but I still get to do a lot of things that normally an RN wouldn't, that LPNs wouldn't do.
Gotcha.
So I have a question for Krista.
Mm-hmm.
You said right now you work in the what field or what part of the hospital?
Like the past 6 weeks, or what my specialty
No,
is?
not outside of Corona.
Oh, I do orthopedic and spine. So it's a med-surg unit that specializes in orthopedic and spine surgeries, pre, post, and or pre, during, and post surgery.
Okay. And then you said you were a charge nurse?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So charge
what
nurse
does that
is,
mean?
She's a little boss.
Miguel calls me the little boss. So I work underneath the manager, and the days that I'm working, which I work 3 days a week, so 3/12s, I run the unit, and I make sure that all of my staff is properly staffed. I make the patient assignments. I assign what patient goes into what room, what surgeries come to us, and kind of correlate with house supervisor, which are like the main command head of the hospital, and do whatever my manager needs me to do, which isn't always fun. It's a little stressful.
Gotcha. So we watched the show, Gemma and I watched the show called Chicago Med, and there's always this little nurse that has this little phone. Is she a charge nurse?
The Nokia phone.
Yes.
So all of our hospital has the Nokia phones, except for one floor. They get the iPhones. I don't know why, but my phone does not work.
I'll call them for you.
You call them for me, because that's kind of messed up.
You think with all this technology being so like up to date, they would get better phones, but they still have like these Nokia phones?
Those Nokia phones are literally for one reason, and it's that we have no excuse not to answer house supervisor or any other managers.
Hey, do you think half the time they're playing that snake game on the Nokia phone?
I wish.
So I just asked Krista something. I want to move Fabi. She got into what she's doing and whatnot. I want to move to Brittany. I know Corona has kind of changed what you're doing over the last 4 to 6 weeks. What were you doing prior to that? If you could share that with us.
So I actually, in April of 2019, I switched over to ICU educator. So I do all the education for our ICU nurses, for our CV, neurotrauma, and our medical ICU. So I had really moved into just really getting those nurses prepared to be at the bedside and like ongoing education for them. Love my job, absolutely love it. But you're right, the last 6 weeks, I was pulled off of all education. And so I was helping hands and taking patients.
Gotcha. So regular ICU nurses, you were just making sure that they were up to date on latest information and policies and procedures, that kind of thing?
Yeah, absolutely. If we have like a new product that comes in, we would have to get them trained on that. Annual education. So we have different things that we have to do annually to make sure that everybody stays up to date on different medications, policies, procedures, stuff like that. And then also the onboarding for the new nurses. And that's honestly like one of the most rewarding parts is we do a pathway. So we do classes every single week for these nurses. We're talking about doing it for an entire year. We've done it for about 7 to 8 months for these nurses, just so that they're really prepared, so that they have kind of like an internship throughout their first several months as a nurse to just get them as prepared as possible to be at the bedside.
So after they graduate, get certified, it's continuous education. Now, is that something that just your hospital does, or does every hospital kind of do that hands-on training?
So every hospital will have an orientation process. So like, I know Krista works at another facility here in town, and you will always have an orientation process, whatever floor you go to. It kind of depends on just you as a person and your preceptor, how long that is. For an ICU nurse, it's anywhere from 12 to 18 weeks. But this pathway that I was talking about is in addition to that orientation. We are the only hospital in town that does it right now. And it's additional classes that we provide for them. So they'll have like online classes that they do, and then they actually come in person to do skills, or they'll do like mega code blue scenarios and just different things that they would face in the ICU as a new ICU nurse, so that they get just a little bit more training so that they're prepared.
Gotcha. Okay, cool. Thank you all so much for explaining everything that you guys are doing in a normal situation, and also while we're dealing with this global pandemic. We appreciate you guys explaining that for us.
Absolutely.
So, with all this nurse talk, who wants to take a guess, as in where nursing came from, or who made nursing, I guess, famous?
We like
I pass.
I'll say it at once if we want to.
Florence Nightingale.
Yes.
The famous Florence Nightingale.
Who?
Eric, have you ever heard that name before?
I've heard of Florence, Italy.
Oh boy.
Wait, is it in Italy? I just said it at the back of my mind.
Good job, Eric. It's an
Hey.
Oh my gosh.
What? I actually paid attention in history and geography, whatever those classes were in high school.
You don't even know what subject that is.
Right.
Something like that, you know? I got my education.
You can't.
Yeah, so it's not if you're not into, or if you don't really know much about the medical field, I don't think it's a name that's very common. It's associated with nursing and stuff, but unless you know about it, like you probably won't ever hear them. So that's what we're here for. Just talk a little bit more in detail about Florence Nightingale. So who is she? She was born May 12th of 1820 in Florence, Italy. Her parents were from England, but she was born in Italy while they were traveling. So anybody want to take a guess why she was named Florence?
Eric?
Because she was born in Florence, Italy.
Hey.
Bingo. 2 for 2, Eric. Good job.
Hey, I'm hot today, guys. I'm hot.
So it's the same with the sister. She had a sister named Parthenope, I believe is how you pronounce it. And her sister was named after Parthenope, which is now known as Naples, Italy. So apparently the parents were a little lazy and were just like, hey, I'm just going to name you from where you were born, you know. So,
dang. I wish my parents would have done that.
Tulsa?
My name would have been Tulsa.
Tulsa Ramos.
Hey, Muskogee Ledbetter.
No. Side note, my real name would have been Reggie.
Oh, yeah, you had told me that before.
But I don't know, Reggie, CJ, it's whatever.
I kind of like it.
I can't see you as a Reggie.
Look like a Reggie.
Well, my brother's name is Robbie. So Robbie, RR, I don't know.
I like CJ
Moving
better.
on.
Yeah, CJ's a lot better. Yeah, so a little bit about Florence's family. She had her sister Parthenope, ended up being a writer and a journalist. Her mother, her name was Frances. She was more of a social butterfly, if you could say, of the family. She came from a family of merchants and took pride in socializing with people and prominent social standings. Florence was not like that at all. She was more to herself, didn't like being the center of attention, but still respected her mother and wanted to please her. Her father, William, was a wealthy landowner who inherited 2 estates. So she came from a pretty wealthy family, hence all the traveling that they did, going to Italy all the time. So from a young age, she was homeschooled by her father. She was very smart. Some would say that she might have even been a genius. She studied German, French, and Italian. So I believe she was able to speak all 3 languages. So
And English.
mm-hmm. And English, I guess, of course.
Yeah.
So anybody know what you call that, being able to speak all those languages?
Quadlingual.
There's a word for it. See if anybody can guess what that word is. What is
I'm
it?
gonna stay 2 for 2. I'm gonna let somebody else handle this.
I've made my guess.
Close, CJ. You could say quadrilingual, but the word is actually polyglot.
What is it?
Polyglot.
Oh, yeah, I would have definitely failed that one.
See, Crystal.
I'm not only
multiple
I'm
times.
not familiar.
Yeah, so that's a word for you guys to learn, polyglot. So her father had the intention of her getting married from a young age, kind of what was custom, get married to somebody wealthy, be taken care of, stuff like that. But Florence didn't agree to that. So when she was a teenager, around the age of 16, she believed she received a calling from God to help the poor and the sick. And so when she tells her parents that she wants to become a nurse, but at that time, nursing isn't what we think of it now. Like nursing back in the day was more of a profession that nobody really respected. And so they didn't approve of it because of it. And and stuck them. Instead, the family wanted her to just get married and just start a family. Like that's all they wanted her to do. But instead, she had the money to do whatever she wanted, but instead she wanted to help the poor and the sick by doing the profession that nobody really respected. So kudos to her for that one. Instead of like sticking with the norm, she kind of wanted to be outside the box, and for the same reason, because she was so smart. So that's kind of where her nursing career began at the age of 16. She kind of refused to just settle and start a family, so she convinced her father to let her go to Germany to study at Pasteur Theodor Fleigner Hospital, and that was in Germany. After finishing that program, she went to Paris for extra training with the Sisters of Mercy.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, so this is all like she was a teenager, so she kind of did quite a bit even before, getting older.
Wait, before you go on, so I want to ask the girls, since they're nurses, what did you at 16 think about becoming a nurse at all? Like Florence did?
Well, Brittany did.
Well, Brittany said it.
Well, yeah, she said in 8th grade. Was it 8th grade?
Yeah, 8th grade.
Great. I was 14.
Keep up.
For me, no. I was going to be a rebel and not be like my mom.
You sound like Florence.
See, her dad just wanted her to get married and settle down to somebody rich and just be at home. Well, that didn't happen.
Oh, that didn't happen.
I mean, I knew I wanted to go into the medical field, but then I became an EMT, and then I knew I wanted to go to nursing after that.
I would love to see Fabi in her EMT outfit.
Right? I have
And
no
pull
idea
up
about
in
that.
an ambulance.
Girl,
For people that don't know, Fabi is like 4'11".
Wow.
I am 5 feet with 2 working hips, and I
She's working it now.
For those who don't know, Fabiola got a new hip. So she's
Shout out to the new hip game.
It's a repaired hip, not a new hip.
There you go.
new and improved, right?
New and improved. I will be brand new in 2021, officially running.
All right.
Oh, that's hilarious. Okay, so I have a question for the ladies. Did you all know who Florence Nightingale was before you went to school for nursing?
Yeah, I did. My mom actually won a Florence Nightingale Award in college. So it's not anything huge, but they get a little pin at graduation. And so I grew up knowing who she was.
I knew who she was just through school. Like after I knew I wanted to be a nurse, like that did stick out in my mind when I learned that in high school.
Yeah, they do teach it to you in high school. I mean, in my high school, they at least taught it to you in part of history class. She was an important person in history. So
Yeah, she is.
they did teach it to you.
Eric, I think you skipped that class that day.
Bro, honestly, I don't know what happened in my class that day.
I think
I don't think I had. I'll have to double check, but I don't know if I had Florence talked about in Big Speel, Oklahoma.
Hey, there was two things happening during my time in school. Either I was sleeping in class or I just wasn't there.
So Tulsa Public Schools failed you guys.
And they passed me, so it don't matter. I still got the diploma. It's all right. It's all right. I got the diploma.
I was homeschooled, so they definitely didn't teach me anything about Florence Nightingale.
He just didn't read his history book.
They have to fix the Tulsa school system or something.
We learn our education in the streets here.
Okay.
Oh my God. Moving on.
Hey, funny story though. This is one of like the stories I love about Krista. So whenever she was little, like her mom would take her to nursing school.
Yeah, my mom graduated nursing school when I was 2, and I had a lot of stomach aches when I was little. So she would, instead of taking me to daycare because they wouldn't take me or whatever, I would just go to class with her.
Yeah, so as a little kid, like she was definitely involved in all that. So this is my favorite story from Krista. I tell her whenever you hurt your knee.
So one day, I don't know what I was doing, probably just running around outside, but I was running, I fell, and I go to my mom, and I tell my mom, I'm like, Mom, I have an abrasion on my patella.
Oh my God.
And I think that's probably my mom's favorite story too, because obviously anatomy and physiology really stuck with me.
And you were how old?
I think I was 2 or 3.
Imagine.
But I mean, these weren't fingers, they were phalanges.
So,
just she would go through anatomy with me, and that's how she would study.
Yeah, imagine like a 3-year-old kid saying those words.
Gosh, patella.
If I have a kid, I am teaching them nothing but medical terms for the body parts. This is not your fingers, these are your phalanges, all right? That's what I'm going to be saying. We talked about it. This isn't going to be your, what did we say? We were just like naming like.
It's not your jaw, this is your mandible.
There you go. Just like everything, it's going to be medical terms. So
I have a question also. So when I've heard med school before, but I've never really asked what is like med school. Like, is it like separate classes from like college classes, or what? Mm-hmm. What does that consist of?
So like for nursing, you do your prereqs. So all your prereqs are all science-based. So micro, chemistry, anatomy, and physiology. And then you do like your writing and all that. And then you have your separate nursing classes, which break down different areas. So like you go through your pediatrics, you go through med surg, you go through all this other stuff. And it's a 2-year process just for your associate's degree.
Dang.
Yeah.
I would have fallen asleep all those classes.
And then you do your clinicals too, and then you do your skills labs.
Clinicals are something only that a medical professional would do?
I think dentists do clinicals too, don't they?
Yeah, I mean, I think anywhere that you're going to be dealing with people or dealing with someone's health, you would do a clinical and go and shadow or help them out.
Yeah, you need that on-hands experience.
Mm-hmm.
What's the funnest thing that you ever did in like your classes, like exercise-wise or like demonstrations, whatever?
Or the weirdest thing?
I don't know.
That
You want to know?
Yeah, you don't want to know some of these stories. All right, I'll say one of them. They did do whenever that whole mannequin challenge was going on. They did do it during their school. She sent me a video.
You guys remember that? Like it was what?
When Black Beatles came out? What,
yeah.
2016?
That first our class did the mannequin thing, and my thing was catheters. I was really good at catheters.
Wait. Ask her what her nickname is during college. During
Catheter Krista or something.
Catheter Queen.
Oh my god.
So in my mannequin video, that's what I was doing. I was pretending to insert a catheter.
Hey, I'm not gonna lie. That is probably like the most disturbing thing I've ever seen in my life. I'm not. All right, so I have an experience of that. I was in an ER room with somebody. I'm not gonna say names or anything. And they were like, "We're gonna have to drain him." And when they said drain him, I was like, "What? Like, you're gonna pump his stomach so he can like throw up?" And they're like, "No, we got something better." And they were like, "Can you help us pull his pants down?" And I was like, "Okay." And then all of a sudden they bring out something and they were like, and I was like, what did I just witness here?
God, I'd have to
pretty
be
weird.
sedated or something.
Brittany
Well,
has
the
that
person that this
story.
happened to was not sedated.
Oh man.
And
I'm out.
let's just say when they got to the emergency room, they were not in a conscious mind. And whenever they inserted the catheter, it was like this person was like woken up and like they were 100% all right. And I was like,
Nah, pull the plug. Pull the plug.
I mean, definitely a respect for nurses, because like some of the stuff that they tell us that they see, I'm like, I would not be able to deal with that stuff. So I'm
yeah,
like,
that's true. Especially like when I saw that and like when they put the catheter in, like they had no regrets. Like they just
You
like
can't.
no heart. And I was like, ouch. Like, why
If
would you
we
do
like
this to this poor
fumble
person?
or like mess up, it's gonna hurt worse. So we just gotta go all in.
Ooh.
All right, Brittany, Fabiola, craziest, weirdest thing you guys experience, whether in clinicals or even now, that's radio friendly or podcast friendly, I guess.
I was gonna say I don't know if I have a podcast friendly one.
Does
Like
not.
I don't know if
Go
they're
for it.
podcasts.
skipped.
I
We're
also my
good.
favorite one on orientation, because I was an orientation for the ICU, and it was one of my best friends with precepting me, and it was night shift, and my patient pushed their call light and he was like, "Hey, go grab that." I was like, "Okay." So I go in and I walk. This is going to be gory. It's appropriate though. So I walk in. I walk to the other side of the bed. He just had a tracheostomy place, so they like cut open your trachea and they put a breathing tube there because of different airway issues. And so I had walked in and there's a pool of blood on him and on the floor. And you have to remain calm. Like Krista said, like we have to go all in. We can't fumble. So I'm like, "Hey, Sean, can you come in here for a second?" And he flips on the light. And it's like a scene out of a vampire movie or something. Like literally like there's blood on the wall. There's blood. So he's like, "Okay, calmly walk around the front of the bed." And I said, "Okay." So I walk around the front of the bed as he coughs and blood just like
Oh my God.
splattered every orifice. And so I walk out of the room and I'm like cleaning myself off, and somebody was like, it's dripping inside of your ear.
Oh my God.
But calling a surgeon in at 3 a.m. to come fix this dude, and like I don't know, it was like a huge adrenaline rush. It was a lot of fun. So
Trachs are pretty gruesome.
they're gross.
They're so gross.
Yeah.
Okay, real quick. I'm sorry, Fabi.
You're fine.
Going into a trach.
It's okay.
Oh, my Google just went off. Sorry. Okay, so does a trach, like right there where it goes, does that really make a difference? Because it seems like between the mouth and where it is, that's not much like airway.
Sorry.
No, you're good. Go ahead.
So it's really like when you think about it, it is a lot closer to your bronchial tree. It really is. And usually where the issue lies is like the swelling of your airway for whatever reason. It all happens higher up in your airway up there. So
Gotcha. Now I know. The more you know, folks.
the more you know.
Right.
All right, Fabi, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I mean, it's a little gruesome, but I was working on a med-surg floor in Texas, and I had a patient who had continuous bladder irrigation. So he had a Foley, and so it's a catheter that was inserted in him. And he had it because we were trying to prevent blood clots to inside his urinary tract. And we had to go and irrigate his bladder manually with the catheter. and he actually had a really large clot. So I tried manually irrigating it, and I could not get it to irrigate. Like I tried, and he was in like excruciating pain to the point where he was like crying.
I'd say so.
So I called my charge nurse to see if he could do the manpower and manually irrigate it. So I stood at the back of the bed, or at the end of the bed, and it was me and this other nurse that were watching him. I was trying to comfort the patient as the charge nurse was trying to irrigate it. So when he went to irrigate it, a bunch of the urine came and splattered all over mine and the other nurse. So it was blood and it was urine at the same time.
Oh.
I mean, the patient felt a lot better. We got a really large clot out. I mean, the patient felt better, and I felt better for my patient, but we went to go wash off our entire makeup, and we felt disgusted.
Yeah, like can you shower? So can you like shower after something like that?
You get
Hey,
to
pause. Okay, with that question, I know Devlin has probably asked a couple of you this. I know I've heard her ask other nurses here, or not here, but other nurses. When on these TV shows, after surgeries or something like that happens, they see these nurses and doctors go off to this like shower room. Is that a thing?
If you work in surgery,
Yeah.
Yeah.
everywhere else you would have to, like, I'm surprised Bobby didn't be like, I'm going home. Like, there's no way
You'll get
It
the
was
little pipe.
literally, it was like 2 a.m. I worked night shift whenever I was in Texas. And I mean, I could have changed my scrubs. We changed everything. We washed our face, and like the good thing is that my mouth was closed.
Good thing you're not a Mora. We're hardcore
Bobby.
mouth breathers.
Bobby, I have a question. Were you married or dating at that time when this happened?
Yeah, I mean, it was me and Marco. We were living in Texas. Yeah.
Wait, so
Oh my gosh.
when you got home, did you kiss him?
I like every night I would get home immediately and like shower and then go to bed, because I try to work my nights all together, and I jump in bed and after I shower and just go to work the next. I say the next day, but it was the next 7 hours after I'd get up.
So when that happens, because like Brittany, you said you had some blood on you. Fabi, you had bodily fluids doing your irrigation or whatever you're talking about. Do you all, like, that's bodily fluid. Sometimes infections can be involved. Do you all have to get like any kind of test or anything like that if you come in contact, I mean, whether it's on the surface or in your ear or whatever, are there tests that has to be done to make sure that like you're good, or what?
I think it only honestly depends like what kind of contact you've come in with the patient, and like maybe like their history. Like I've taken care of patients who've had like certain kind of history, and let's say like you get a needle stick, like for me that's like an automatic test. Even whatever their history is, like it's an automatic whole process with the hospital that you have to do and report. But like with the body fluids, like it didn't get in my mouth. Like I rinsed out my eyes immediately for like the longest time, and I mean I really wasn't really worried about it. I'm here.
You're right. Absolutely. I had a patient that was receiving blood products, and I had platelets like come in my eyes. So for that, I did have to, like, you immediately go to the ER or your facility's employee health, and they draw labs. And then in that instance, I had labs drawn that first day, and then I had labs drawn 6 weeks later to see if there was any kind of contact. But with like the blood thing, it hit my face and I wiped it off and called it a day. So
Yeah.
You're so tired at the end of the day that you don't
care.
It is what it is.
Right. A lot of it is what it is. And I think, like Bobby said too, like your patient's history, did it come in contact with anything? Like eyes and mouth is like a huge way to actually get something from someone else. So if it had done something like that is when you'd really want to follow up with somebody else.
And I don't think our hospital would want to pay for all the times that we come into contact with bodily fluids. Like it's a almost hourly thing. Like it's sometimes insane.
So for all of you, question, has there ever been a moment, experience that has made you question, like seriously question, not just like, gosh, dang it, seriously question, is this really for me?
Yeah, I think we all have those shifts.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
What to pinpoint? It doesn't.
At the beginning of your nursing careers?
Mine wasn't until like several years in, but honestly, it was more like God bless families, but families and that drama and dealing with all of that is like a big reason I did not want to be at bedside anymore. It wasn't really patients and dealing with patient care.
Like this lockdown with not having any families at the hospital is glorious. And honestly, patient care is even better with no family members there.
I completely agree. I'm like, don't get me wrong. There's a bunch of evidence-based practice that families at bedside and better patient outcomes, yada, yada. But like nurse satisfaction is through the roof right now with no family.
Yeah. I think anything too also depends on who you work with. Like you can give me 5-6 different patients with all different things going on. I can handle that. It depends on who my team is that's working with me. For me, at least, like patient care is fun and everything to me, and I'm really task oriented, but it comes to the fact of, do I have a dramatic staff working with me? Do I have people that are being super picky about certain things that I have to fix personally as charge? That's made me want to step away from bedside. But at the same time, then you have those really good days and everything is good. So it comes in waves.
Yeah, it's sad, but family sometimes is the hardest on the whole patient. Especially sometimes it's like the families who are in the healthcare system and they like take over your
and not
your
even
entire care
in the like medical profession, like not trying to be mean or anything, but it's always the CNAs or someone a little lower that I'm not trying to throw shade, but when you're trying to act like you know every little thing.
No, yeah.
Let me tell you, the doctor's not going to act that way.
I know.
I feel like it's like ICU nurses, and we walk in, and I'm like, I'm gonna need a lab panel. I'm gonna need to look at that CT. I'm gonna need to
Yeah,
like
I
have to go in and be like, Brittany, don't be that person. Like, don't tell them you're a nurse. Don't let them do their thing. Like, I have to tell myself that, or I would be that person.
You pull that nurse card later.
Right.
You don't do it right up front. You get you're friends with the doctors, the surgeons,
right.
All that. You're like, oh, by the way.
No, even whenever I was just had my surgery in December, I did not even tell them anything because I sometimes feel like it's like rude because I don't want to seem like I can tell them what I want or anything. Like I let them do their thing and everything, and unless I see them like doing something wrong, I'm like, okay, like I don't think that looks right, but no.
Yeah. So, not a follow-up question, but just an additional question for you ladies, because we know it happens. I have probably asked one of you, maybe, or Blake, my buddy who's also a nurse, text messages, calls, hey, this just happened. What do I need to do? Does that bother y'all?
Mm-hmm. Not really.
It doesn't bother me either. I think the only piece that I don't love is like when somebody sends me a picture of something and they're like, what is this? And I'm like, well, I'm definitely not a dermatologist or an infectious disease physician, so I'm going to need you to have that actually checked out. But like if it's somebody's like, hey, my kid, like XYZ symptoms, like I don't mind people texting me stuff like that.
It's always the rash pictures though, right?
Always freaking the rash picture. I'm like, draw a perimeter around it. I don't know what the hell to tell you.
There's some Aquaphor.
Right.
All right, so you can text Brittany at 555-5555 if you have questions about any rashes or any discoloration in your skin.
Any pictures? She prefers pictures, guys. She prefers
Do me a favor.
Hey, I'm gonna have to text y'all because like Mexican moms, man, whenever you tell them that you're feeling sick, they say, hey, no, they don't even say that. They give you the same medicine as always. They say, just go lay down, drink a Pepto, and you'll be fine.
Tylenol does not cure everything, okay?
Vicks,
But Vapor Rub does.
Vicks Vapor Rub.
And then next thing you know, I see my mom going outside like to her garden plant, and then she go get some
Aloe vera.
I don't know how to say it in English. I think Fabio knows what I'm talking about. Some hierba, and she's like, she puts it in a pot, and then she starts putting water in it, and then she's like, here, drink this. Yeah, hierba buena. She's like, hey, start drinking this, and you'll feel better. And I'm like, I'm dying over
does help
here.
things.
I'm dying.
Can we get a translate on that, please?
Experiment.
Oh, experiment.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
A little bit.
I will say nurses are a lot worse than any other mom because we will just be like, you're fine.
Yeah.
You're good. If your arm's broken, sleep it off. You're fine. I've had 3 broken bones in my life, and my mom's always like, it's okay, you're good. Just walk it off.
Man, good thing I'm a really tough guy. You know?
Gosh, I've never broken a bone. I would. I've never been admitted in a hospital. I don't know what I would act like.
It's fun.
No, it's not. It
like
freaking
it.
sucks.
People getting irrigated on and whatnot.
It does.
It sucks.
I've gone to stitches twice, and that's it. That's the only time I've really been to the hospital. So, yeah. All right, let's get back on subject.
Sorry, everybody.
We can talk about
questions
stories
and whatnot.
forever. I'll tell you that much. So we were talking about a little bit about her family. So she did receive this calling from God and wanted to become a nurse, right? So about 15 years later, around the age of 33, she returned to London finally and took a job at Middlesex Hospital. So after just a year of working there, she impressed her employer so much that she was promoted to superintendent. Like that good. She was that good at her job that boom, she became a superintendent of the hospital. So during the time of her as being a superintendent, there was a cholera outbreak. For those who don't know, Fabiola, do you want to tell us what cholera is?
She may be on mute.
She's a little rusty, guys. All right. How about somebody else tells us what cholera is?
I think she's on mute. Somebody else got it.
Yeah, so it's a GI tract infection that causes you to be really dehydrated. You like throw up and diarrhea, all your fluids out, and you die.
Is it a parasite or is it a bacteria? You know?
I thought it was bacteria, but I mean,
It's a parasite.
Oh, it's a parasite because it comes
It
from
looks
the
like
water.
it's a parasite. Mm-hmm.
All right, you redeemed yourself, Fabiola.
It's from drinking contaminated water.
It has a nickname for rice water stool because you shed so many white blood cells because that's all that's left.
Oh, wow.
Horchata.
Looks like where you're drinking right now, Fabiola.
Oh.
So thank you. So
I
yeah,
think I'm echoing. a bit.
there was this cholera outbreak, and unsanitary conditions just helped spread the disease so much faster. So Florence made it her mission to improve the hygiene practices, which helped lower the death rate at the hospital significantly. So this wasn't even being done back then. So just something that she thought that would help. Just something so simple, it just helped so much. So as she's dealing with this, shortly after the Crimean War broke out, anybody know what the Crimean War was?
No.
Since history is your favorite class, Eric.
I barely know American wars.
I plead the fifth.
Okay, you'll stay 2 for 2 then. So according to history.com, the Crimean War was a result of Russian pressure on Turkey. So this threatened British commercial and strategic interests in the Middle East and India. France, having provoked the crisis for prestige purposes, used the war to cement an alliance with Britain and to reassert its military power. So that's what started with the Crimean War. So around this time, there were really no female nurses stationed at the hospital near Crimea due to the reputation that females were poor at nursing. So Crimea is located between Turkey and Ukraine, bordering the Black Sea. So I'm assuming they probably thought that the females couldn't handle the gore of everything or were too weak. But let me tell you, that's not the case. Like, I feel like they're probably the best suited to deal with this than men actually are. Because I wouldn't be able to deal with that stuff.
What, be a nurse?
No, I definitely would not be a nurse. Like Krista has told me, it's like, why don't you, become a nurse or something in the medical field? And I'm like, I can't deal with that stuff.
You don't have to do bedside. You can do a lot of different stuff.
That's true, but nah, I don't know. I don't know if I could do it.
Reggie can do it.
I have a weak stomach, so.
Not me.
You don't have a
Not me. I'm out.
I tell Mitchell he can't do it because he has a soul.
As sad as that sounds,
I'm like,
it's true.
It's so true. I'm like, you would take your patients, like, you would take those stories home with you, and they would, like,
It would eat him up.
it would eat him. There's no way.
Go ahead, Eric, because I think we're about to ask the same question.
Have you ever had an experience where you've like gotten attached to a patient, like by any chance, and like wanted to, or like took, the pain with you home?
I can probably name on one hand. I had a patient, my first patient that died. I remember her, my first young patient that she coded after she gave birth. She was like 17, her. And then I had a spina bifida patient that her parents just wanted to keep alive as a vegetable, and it was the saddest thing ever. But I mean, really, those are the only ones that really stick out in my mind.
Yeah, I think for me, at least where I work, I don't keep patients for a very long time, but you do get really attached. And then we do have our frequent flyers who mess up their hips or break their bones a lot. But working in the COVID unit, I have actually gotten attached to quite a few positive patients. Some have even been just not necessarily close friends, but they've been coworkers, unfortunately. So I think that's the closest that I've gotten to really being close. But for me, I mean, no matter what, any code situation, any situation that a patient dies, you're going to have those feelings of, sad, or there's something, you're going to have some type of pain towards it. And if you don't, well, you just don't have a soul. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh, God.
When you just, because like I can't count on, I've done probably watched over 100 people die. Like it can't bother you anymore, or I would just go home and cry myself to sleep every day.
Right.
No, whenever I used to work at the skilled facility and the nursing facility, you see a lot of the geriatric patients, which are the elderly patients who they don't have family, and you kind of have to be their family. So you get really, really attached to them. And it was a last job that I had. So whenever I left, even like a month later, 2 months later, like I still think about them, and it's really, really sad because you really get attached to them, and you just think about them being alone. They don't have their family, just doesn't go visit them, and it's one of those the geriatrics, you just get really attached to them.
Yeah, whenever I had my surgery, I'm gonna just say this real quick. I was chill all morning, and then whenever they were taking me into the surgery room, the nurse that came to pick me up, I could tell instantly he had no soul, because he's like, "All right, say bye to your family," and I was like, "What?" And he's like, "Yeah, say bye," and I was like, "Nah, I ain't saying bye. You crazy?" And then he's just like, "All right, let's go," and I was like, "Am I gonna die?" Like, he made it seem like I was gonna die.
Yeah, no, I mean, we just get so used to it. I mean, it's routine for us. So we're just like, all right, you'll see him in a little bit, but to the patient, it's not always that way.
Yeah. And
that's not to say you don't have natural feelings, for them. It's just, this is work. This is what we have to do.
Yeah,
exactly.
I think if you're really good at compartmentalizing in your mind, then you would be like a great nurse, because that's what is literally what you have to do. You have to just set, your life aside and just kind of go into nurse mode. So for those who didn't know, Eric had a Kanye West surgery.
It's not shot. Don't put that out.
Did I get shot?
Nah, Kanye. I thought Kanye flew out the window.
Oh, that's right. He was in a car accident, right?
Yeah, he was in a car accident. He flew out the window.
That's right. 50 Cent was shot.
Yeah, 50 Cent was shot.
Yeah, he had to get his mouth shut.
Dang, CJ, you the black guy in this Zoom party, and you don't even know what happened to Kanye, man. That's fake.
It's Garth Brooks, bro.
But now Eric's jaw is in the right place.
Definitely.
And now he has a very good-looking mandible.
It sucked. I hated it. I'm never doing another surgery in my life.
Yeah, we'll see about that.
Hey, but I did have the greatest nurse in the world. Shout out to my mom. You know, she took care of me.
There you go.
There you go. Shout out to mom.
Yeah.
All right. So this Crimean War is breaking out. So after a certain battle, the Battle of Alma, England was pretty upset in regards to the neglect of their sick and injured soldiers who suffered from lack of medical attention due to just how bad the understaffing was, but also the very bad unsanitary and inhumane conditions that they were in. So due to this, the Secretary of War asked Florence to organize a group and go help out these soldiers in Crimea. So she organized 34 nurses and set sail to go. So I think it was meant just like I had read or listened or something that so many people were dying. Like there was more people dying from the conditions of the war, or the condition of the sanitation in the hospitals than the actual war. So I mean that's just how bad the conditions were. So what do you think? What do you guys think Florence saw when she got to the hospital in Skyline, which is the British-based hospital in Constantinople? So what do you think she saw when she got there?
Feces everywhere.
I mean,
I feel like I'm going to say this and everyone's going to think I Wikipedia'd it, but she saw them reusing surgical utensils from one soldier to another soldier. The only reason I know that is because I had to do a project on that in school.
Yeah, like conditions were horrible. Like it was ridiculous. So the hospital itself was on top of a cesspool, which is similar to like a septic tank that we use now. But the water was contaminated, and so was the building itself. Like they were saying that it was like flooded. So it was flooded with like sewer water, with just everything, all the nasty stuff you can think of. It was just like flooded with that. Also, the patients were laying in their own feces or excrements. Rodents and bugs were everywhere, and the most basic supplies like bandages, soap were so scarce that the number of ill just kept increasing. And even like the water that they had needed to be rationed because they didn't have enough. So, like I was saying, like there was more soldiers that were dying from the diseases like typhoid and cholera. Typhoid. Anybody want to explain what that is? I don't know. What
I like C. diff.
No, I'm trying to think. I feel like it's another.
Oh, typhoid. I remember seeing this in Oregon Trail. It's like you've died from typhoid or something like that.
I was going to say like typhoid fever.
You guys are too young to remember Oregon Trail.
Yeah, it's like typhoid fever.
Okay.
So it's a fever.
Okay.
It's like a septic infection.
Gotcha. So they were dying from that. And again, like cholera that we talked about. So they were dying more from that than the actual battlefield. So it was a complete mess whenever she got there. So Florence, being the clean freak that she is, got straight to work. And so she got hundreds of scrub brushes and got the patients that were least sick or injured to start cleaning from the floor to the ceiling. So Florence spent every minute she had just taking care of these patients and just trying to get the place as clean as possible. So the people that were there, the nurses that were there and doctors, I mean, didn't even think of something so simple like that. But as soon as she got there, that's exactly what she started doing. So the soldiers moved, and they were moved and comforted by her compassion that they started giving her the nickname, the Lady with the Lamp. So that's where that came from. So why do you think they called her the Lady with the Lamp?
She probably had to carry a lamp to go in the dark.
Yeah, pretty much. So she just roamed through the hallways at night carrying a lamp as she was ministering from patient to patient. So she was just practicing, or she was just doing what she thought was right for the patients and just comforting them, just having a conversation with them, just something like that. And I mean, I'm sure it would help. I mean, they always say morale, or like your morale and like your mental state plays a big part in your health. So even something like that, just so simple, I'm sure helped just pick up everybody's spirit and like probably think that they can get through whatever they were going through. So all the work that she did was not in vain. Like, she reduced the hospital's death rate by 2/3. So all the things that she was doing completely helped. I was whenever I was researching, I did see, I don't know if you guys have heard, but apparently she also, like, there's people out there that think that she is like the worst nurse. And as soon as she got there, like, she killed a bunch of people and stuff like that. Have you guys ever
I
heard
heard that. I heard this. In fact, so when I was, our podcast, and I'd done some research, like, a lot of people were like, she actually killed more people when, who were at her hospital or under her care or whatever. But it seems like most of those fatalities or deaths, whatever you want to call them, happened before she cleaned the hospital that she was working at up.
Yeah. So pretty, from what I had heard or read, is that I think it just happened. It just so happened to be, by the time she got there was a huge outbreak of, like, diseases. And then, like, I think a bunch of new patients came in, and they were just, like, completely out of everything. So she obviously wasn't able to help them right away because she didn't have the stuff that she needed to take care of them. So I think it just, like, it was just at that moment that she got there that this happened, and they ran out of all the supplies, and that's why people started dying. So I don't think it was necessarily anything that she did, but I mean, eventually, over time, after she got everything cleaned up and started picking everything up, then she obviously started saving more people. So I don't know if that's right.
They probably just gave her the worst of the worst patients when she got there.
Maybe.
Right.
Yeah, maybe.
Either they weren't sick enough to be, like, at the other hospitals, so they just said, we'll go over there to her, or they were, like, so sick they didn't want, death numbers on them, so they were like, yeah, go over there to her. So probably a lose-lose situation for her when she first got started.
Yeah, probably. So on top of cleaning everything, she also instituted the creation of an invalid kitchen. So it just where appealing food for patients where special dietary requirements were cooked. She instituted a laundry so the patients could have their clean linens, and also a classroom and library for those who need intellectual stimulation and for entertainment. So on top of cleaning, she also instituted these things to kind of help with everything. So after her observations here, she wrote an 830-page report analyzing her experience and proposing reform for other military hospitals operating under poor conditions. So all is that she always kept notes, and passed it along, for people to read. So she stayed for a year and a half. Then she went home. So she was there for a good while. While that report that she wrote, it had made such an impact on the hospitals that she was greeted to heroes welcome. But her being shy, humble self did her best to avoid it. So as soon as she returned to London, everybody had heard about her. So she became pretty famous by then. But she kind of just wanted, like, her thing was, this is my duty. I'm not doing it for the glory. Like, I don't want to be praised for something that I should be doing already, or that should be done.
Right.
So that's how she stayed out throughout most of her life. So whenever she got back, the queen rewarded her with an engraved brooch. Brooch. These English words, man. Brooch.
You can say it in Spanish. It's okay.
Broche. That's how you say it in Spanish.
That sounds Italian or something, or French, or.
Oh, wait. Broche.
Oh, I got you. I understand now.
Okay, thank you. So she, with an engraved brooch, okay, that became to be known as the Nightingale Jewel. And the queen handed her 250,000 euros. So it doesn't sound like a lot, but in today's money, due to the inflation, that's $8,290,000, 961 with 54 cents.
Wait, that's a lot. I mean, even in the 1800s, that's a lot.
Yeah. So that's what the queen gave her. And they kind of gave it to her to show her what she's worth. Like, they said, you saved so many lives, you improved conditions all around, that here's this money is what we think you're worth. Because at that time, nursing they weren't getting paid
Mm-mm.
very much at all. You know, like to them, it was just like a dirty profession that doesn't deserve to get
What the
paid.
lowly did.
Yeah, that the lowly people did. And so giving her this money, it was like kind of just showing her, hey, there you go. You deserve this money. You earned it for helping save so many lives. So
So that what that says is all of you ladies and all of the nurses listening, at your next shift, go into your administrator and be like, listen, I've saved lives. I need a raise. Right?
That's cute.
I'm gonna try this tactic at my job.
Yeah, do it at your job and see what happens.
Now may not be the best time, actually.
Actually, now might be the perfect time. So this money that she earned, with the money that she earned, she funded a St. Thomas hospital. So within it, she instituted the Nightingale Training School for Nurses. She ended up being a public figure. And yes, so young women also, she did it so young women could be inspired to be like her. She even got wealthy upper class women to start enrolling in the training school. So thanks to her, this nursing was no longer frowned upon by the upper class. Instead, it was viewed as an honorable vocation. So the reason why she's called the mother of nursing, because she really turned it from something that was so lowly to something that was more honorable. You know, people could take honor in saving people's lives, you know?
Yeah. And I think another thing too is that she really brought in holistics too and showed that it's not just what's going on with the person, it's the entire person. So integrating food, clean linens, entertainment, all of that also just shows that all of that takes, that's all that it takes to make someone healthy again.
Yeah. And it's crazy though, because like, I think we're just so used to it now that we're like, why didn't somebody just think about this? Like, it should be common sense. But it really is not common sense until somebody comes up with it, you know? So everything that was being done before, like, I don't know, I guess it just wasn't helping. But she was just somebody so smart and really so caring. Like, it would take somebody that's caring to be able to come up with this kind of things to help.
And that's why we need caring nurses, because there is some nurses that are only in it for the money, which, I mean, you know, everybody goes, you know, gets their career and does whatever they want with it. But we need a lot more caring bedside nurses.
You definitely do, because honestly, no matter what, like that 12-hour shift, you do not get paid enough for half the stuff that you go through. So you can't be in it for the money.
What what's the average, I don't want to say lifespan, but what's the average lifespan of nurse?
Like a bedside nurse? Or
yeah.
I think for bedside nurse,
I know.
it's very difficult. I've known nurses that have only done bedside nursing for 40 years, but their backs are horrible. They've had multiple surgeries, so it's really tough. Yeah, Fabi's one of them. Or I know others that only do it for a couple of years and then work their way up into the system and are administrators now of the hospital.
Right.
I was going to say, I think we've discussed like burnout, nursing burnout. So I think for an ER nurse, average is 5 years, and for an ICU nurse, average is 8. And that doesn't necessarily mean that you're not a nurse anymore, but it just means like in those particular areas that those nurses, that's usually how long they make it in that department.
Wow.
Because I mean, I've had moments where I can come home and like I don't even want to look at Miguel. I don't want to say hi to him. I'm so burnt out with just human contact that I need moments to myself. Or, you know, it just puts you. Burnout is something that's really difficult to deal with, and some people are able to go through it and just push through, and others aren't always.
Whenever I worked in the medical surgical unit, it was tough. I mean, you had some very difficult patients, and you just get overflow from, sometimes we'd get we get everything that was coming out from the ICU. You'd get overflow from the ER. And I mean, I worked night shift, and a lot of people think that night shift, it is an easy shift, but it is a very difficult shift just because you don't have all those doctors and all the physical therapists and the speech therapist. You still have family that comes in, and sometimes that's when patients get their worst. That's when they start declining. And you had some good nights, but you had some very awful nights. And I did 2 years there. And when I go back to school and, continue my education, I'll probably do some ICU, but I don't know if I'd go back to med-surg after that.
ICU is the greatest nursing there ever was.
Yeah. And that's a cool thing about it, though. Like, there's so many fields inside the nursing department that you can just like branch out to so many different ones, and then you can just come back to it. Like, let's say you go to another field and you're like, oh, it wasn't for me. You can always go back to that field before. So there's just so many things you can do. So that's pretty cool.
How long is like your license certification? Is that good for life or what?
You do it every 2 years. Renew it every 2 years.
So do you have to like retake class or just like
you do continuing education?
So yeah, the hospital offers the continuous education, whatever hospital you're at, and then you just pay the money to renew your license.
Yeah, but here in Kansas, you have to do 30 hours continuing education apart from whenever the hospital offers. So like I did mine. I actually just renewed mine today, my license. So
it's awful to do it additional. Like I feel like I do like 200 hours of continuous education through the hospital.
Yeah, they have to be like approved, and it is awful.
That's awful.
I know for like certified nurses, I have to get 100 over the course of 3 years in addition to my license for my specialty certification.
Yeah. Is that transferable by state, or is it state by state?
I don't know.
It depends. The license, like in Oklahoma, we're a multi-state. Missouri, it's a compact state. So it just depends on your license and who they have worked with as far as other governments within the states where you can transfer that.
See, I was curious about that because like with the global pandemic that's going on, and you saw some nurses who were leaving their home hospitals and home states, going to other cities. Can they just be like, what up? I worked over here.
Yeah.
And I'm licensed or whatever.
A lot of states were waiving that. Yeah, they were waiving it that you could work there.
Well, where do I sign up?
Yeah, exactly. I will say that like there was, so I don't know about every state obviously, but like I know in Ohio, because here in Oklahoma, if you or at our facility anyway, if you left to go travel nurse, you were not rehireable when you come back. So you have to work at another facility in town. In the state of Ohio, if you left, the state is going against your nursing license. So if you left your hospital to go make money somewhere else and travel nurse, when you come back, it's not promised that you can even work as a nurse in the state that you came from.
Wow.
So like the biggest thing is New York City, New Orleans, Chicago, they were all offering, when this pandemic started, they were offering $6,000 to $10,000 a week. But the problem is
taxes, god dang.
But the thing is you have COVID patients at your hospital too that you could be taking care of, and you are literally, I mean, it's a great thing. And fortunately for my hospital, we have a sister hospital. Ardent owns our hospital. So there's an Ardent facility in New Jersey. So a lot of our float pool nurses and ICU nurses were able to make contracts over there and then safely have their job when they come back. So they're able to make the money and then be able to come back here in a couple of weeks.
Oh, wow.
That's what our nurses got to do too. They got to go, we have sister facilities in Chicago. Mm-hmm. So they got to go up to Chicago and travel nurse. But the other people that left and went to New York, and I mean, don't get me wrong, like they signed, I mean, I know one nurse, she signed a contract. She worked for 21 days straight and she made, I want to say it was $120 before taxes to work 21 days straight.
So
but I mean,
salary in a year.
Man, whenever Krista told me those numbers, I was like packing her bags, halfway kicking.
I know.
Me and Freddie had texts, and I actually was thinking the next day I was going to go ask my manager what would happen if I went to New Orleans for 6 weeks.
Mitchell was like, time out, how much? I mean, babe, you have a respirator. I feel like you'll be safe.
Yeah, just kidding, guys. Just kidding, guys.
But then when I hear these stories of these nurses, like we just had one
Horror stories
last week. They have 8 patients, which is ridiculous.
8 ICU patients.
ICU
when
patients.
you only have 4, right?
I only have 4 on the COVID unit. Yeah, I only have
2?
4 at the max, and then ICU is 2 to.
Oh my goodness.
And then step down is 3. Like, it is insane, and these patients are not doing well. They're crashing, and so
they make you earn that money.
They make you earn that money. That's for sure.
I was gonna say, I had a girlfriend. She is a nurse in New York, and she was like, "These people that are signing these contracts, you need to tell them it is not worth a single penny to be able to have to stand outside of your patient's room knowing they're dying, and you can't get in there fast enough because you can't get in your PPE fast enough." She's like, "It's not worth it."
That's crazy. Yeah, it's sad stuff, man.
Sad.
Interesting.
That sounds like Florence's life.
I know, right?
Poor thing.
Probably worse. Yeah, a lot
Probably
worse. So that's ridiculous. You can just imagine.
Hey, I had a question. Is it true whenever you learn CPR that they make you, whenever you're doing the pumps to the chest, if that's what you call it, I don't know what it's called.
Compression.
That if you have to sing the Bee Gees song whenever you're doing the compressions.
Brittany, do you do that in your class?
Wait,
It's a staying alive song.
So,
Yeah, is anybody a fan of The Office? Does anybody watch that?
Yeah.
So I show that 5-minute clip in my CPR classes. So when I teach them, I'm like, so when you actually do CPR for the first time, it's going to be a cluster. You're not going to know what you're doing. And this is kind of how it's going to go. But yes, we do choose staying alive. Staying alive.
yes.
Wait, Eric, can you demonstrate for us, please?
Can I demonstrate? Well, I thought it was funny because in The Office, he started singing. He's like, once I was afraid, I was cracking up when that happened. But yes, I just wanted to ask. I was like, I don't know if that's true, but I'd probably be more like Dwight. I'd be like, so now that they're
Harvest
dead,
the organs.
yeah, harvest the organs, cut the body, check his wallet. Is he an organ donor?
Yeah, I think The Office made that really popular.
Yeah.
That's pretty funny.
100 beats per minute.
That's right.
That's
100 to 120.
Yep.
I concur.
Huh?
I said I concur.
We're almost done, guys. Almost done with this information. So, going back to Florence, at the age of 38, so about 5 years after she left to go help the hospital, she ended up being homebound and bedridden for the rest of her life. So she ended up contracting the Crimean fever. Now, it didn't kill her or anything, but she was bedridden, but that didn't stop her. So she continued to work from her home, from her bed, pretty much. She talked to politicians and consulted on how they can manage field hospitals throughout the Civil War. So she was definitely still getting her work done, even from being bedridden. At 1908, at the age of 88, she received the Merit of Honor by King Edward. 2 years later, at the age of 90, she also received a congratulatory message by King George on her birthday. So my homegirl was popular. Everybody knew her. A couple months later, she ended up dying on Saturday, August 13th, in her home in London from old age. So, the fever never killed her. She just died from old age. Being who she was, being humble and not wanting any of the attention, she requested before she died that her funeral be as quiet and as modest as possible. And sure enough, they did it. They complied with that. Red Cross created the Florence Nightingale Medal, so that's given to excellent nurses every 2 years. Is that the one that your mom got?
No, she just got one I think almost every nursing school has like their Florence Nightingale Award that they do at like pinning ceremonies and stuff.
Do we have any recipients among us?
No, I was really close though. Another thing, as we know,
That doesn't make us bad nurses, though.
Yeah,
right.
Exactly, Fabiola.
We just really weren't the
One day.
I bet we're all Daisy nominated nurses.
We are all Daisy nominated. That's a whole other
What's that Daisy nomination?
It's when a patient or a family member has something that you have done, And so they actually turn in like a formal application into your supervisor at or the hospital in general. And you get nominated for Daisy, and then it goes to like a selection, and you can actually win the Daisy Award.
Is there a form that I can fill out for each one of you to nominate?
There sure is. We will.
Well,
Yeah.
okay,
send you the PDF.
we will include that form too. So make sure and fill that out and give these wonderful ladies a shout out.
We'll get cinnamon rolls and PTO.
There you go.
Ooh, that's how they get you.
The Cinnabons.
The Cinnabons. There's a whole story behind that too.
Yeah. So besides these like medals that she was earning and all that stuff, International Nurses Day is actually on her birthday. So that's something that we knew about. So even now, like to this day, Florence Nightingale is still revered as a pioneer for nursing. So she's a person to go, to look up to, and she's the one that really started it all. So really, yeah, that's what I looked up, what I learned about Florence Nightingale. I don't know if there was stuff that you guys already knew, stuff that you learned, but just wanted to share that information with you guys. We could do like a little recap to make sure everything that we learned stuck. All right.
Oh, Lord.
Next time.
All right, Eric.
We're good. We're good. Hey, all right. Good night, everybody.
All right,
Thanks for
Eric,
coming.
come on.
Girls, Bobby, Brittany, Krista, we appreciate everything you do. Shout out. Hey, keeping it 100 out in the nursing field. All right, it's a wrap, guys. Let's go
Come on,
home.
Eric. History
out.
and geography, they're your class.
All right,
I'm with
what's
you
up?
on that.
All right. When and where was Florence born?
She was born in Florence, Italy.
When?
In the year of man, it was a long time ago. May 12th, 1820.
There you go.
And you're good.
I think you want to look that up, but you found it.
Hey, I got memory.
All right. How old was she when she received her calling and decided to be a nurse? Fabiola.
She was 16.
16. Yep. How much did she reduce death rate by whenever she got to the hospital? CJ.
50%. No. No. It was like 66%.
No,
It's a fraction, not a percentage.
but I mean, it could be.
It's the same percentage.
It could be. It could be. Close.
66 point. All right.
We'll give it to you.
I don't want no pity gives.
All right. What is the nickname the soldiers gave her, Brittany?
Oh, Lord.
It's on your nightstand.
My nightstand. The light or lamp?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Lady with the lamp.
There you go.
Wait, did she say the silence of the lambs?
All right, Krista, how old was she when she died?
90.
90. So for bonus points, this is for the nurses. Who can recite the Nightingale Pledge?
Oh gosh. Can you, Bobby?
Anybody?
You can't shake your head because it looks like you're saying yes. Are you saying yes or no?
No.
Brittany?
I didn't hear the question. I'm sorry.
Oh, for bonus points, who can recite the Nightingale Pledge?
Oh, heck no.
Something
I don't even know if I was going to say.
I solemnly
I don't know if
pledge
I remember it from
myself
nursing
before
school.
God. Anybody want to take the rest of
And in the presence of the assembly, to pass my life in purity and to practice my profession faithfully, I shall abstain from whatever is deleterious and mischievous, and shall not take.
Oh, she looked up the old version, the old English version, I think.
Hey, we're going old school here.
Hey, yeah, you asked for the Florence Nightingale song, like the original.
If she wants to do the OG one, be my guest.
And shall not take or knowingly administer any harmful drug. I shall do all in my power to maintain and elevate the standard of my profession, and will hold and in confidence all personal matters committed to my keeping and all family affairs coming to my knowledge in the practice of my calling. I shall be loyal to my work and devoted towards the welfare of those committed to my care. Florence Nightingale.
I agree.
She took a little bit of that from the Hippocratic Oath, I think.
Good job, Fabiola. Thank you for reading that out to us.
Beautiful.
So yeah, guys, that's Florence Nightingale in the podcast.
The woman who made our jobs.
Yeah.
There we go.
All right. Before we go, what about, okay, so I know there's people that might listen to us, might think about going into the medical field. So is there like a suggestion, any tips that you would give them as far as, you know, what helped you guys?
I think for me, my advice would be if you're in high school, make sure you take your concurrent enrollment, get your prerequisites out of the way, so then you can go straight into the program. Do really good in your science classes and math classes. That's what you'll need. And it just, you know, it's a really rewarding career, even though we always joke about it and laugh about all the gore and the crazy things we see and the attitudes that we have. It really is a rewarding career, and you can do so much with it.
What I would probably say is I came out of high school and was a nurse at 20. Like I had no previous, like I'd worked retail before that. So I feel like anybody who wants to go into nursing, be a tech first, like a phlebotomist, a something in the hospital so you can get an idea if it's really something that you want to do before you spend years and thousands of dollars in school. But it will also give you such a huge leg up. Like I'm seeing these nurses come through that they've been techs for 2 years and then they were externs while they were in school, and then now they're nurses and they are amazing nurses. So I would definitely say try to do something within the medical field to kind of just get familiar with it. It is such a shock when you've never worked in the medical field before. So just try to get yourself acclimated and really make sure you love it.
Fabiola?
Something I would say is always have respect for your peers, for your nurses. You're going to have the older nurses, the younger nurses, and you're going to think sometimes that you clash with each other just because the older nurses are probably going to have more experience than you. But for me, I would always go to the older nurses just because they were the ones that had the most experience, and never be afraid. Never be afraid to ask questions, just because if you never ask a question, you're going to end up making a mistake. And that is probably going to be the worst thing that you could do in the nursing, just because you are taking care of patients, you have their lives in your hands. And I think that's honestly the biggest advice that I can give anybody that's going into nursing or that's already in the nursing field, is to question. No question is dumb. And one more thing I wanted to add, because Eric, he brought up the CPR. If you're if you're not in the nursing career, in the nursing field or any healthcare field, I think it's recommended to everyone to take a CPR class, just because you never know when someone's gonna drop dead in front of you.
Hey, I teach basic life support. I can make a class for everybody, and we can all have fun together.
Free 99. I'm there.
I'm serious. I mean, compressions save lives, and
I've been wanting to get CPR certified, so I'd
like to do that.
It's the simplest. It's easy. It's the simplest thing, and when someone falls in front of you, I mean, you are gonna know what to do, and you're gonna be thankful that you took that CPR class.
Can it work on animals?
It can.
Yeah, on deers, sure.
Right. I've done CPR before.
On behalf of all of us here at the Manscaped-Trio and really everybody, our family, friends, we just want to sincerely thank you ladies so much for what you guys are doing day in, day out. A lot of times there may be things that happen to you guys that we may never, that happens to you ladies that we may never know about. There's so much that you guys deal with on a day-to-day basis. It's truly something where you ladies are putting yourselves out there. So again, I want to thank you all very much for what you do every day, and also joining us on our podcast here.
Yes. Thank you guys for joining us. Definitely proud to have you as my wife and you guys as my friends too.
Oh, thanks.
Thank you.
Oh,
And it's Nurses Week. So if you all know any nurses, make sure
Thank God.
take care of them. If you ever text them and say,
give him a hug.
finger or whatever, take care of them because
They deserve it.
they deserve it.
Yeah.
Give them a hug.
Stop. That's
Social
scary.
distancing.
They don't want you don't touch them.
Don't touch us.
Just take care of them.
You don't want
Bring us cupcakes. Bring us cupcakes.
There you
There.
go.
Well, I'm at home right now, so I'll do the next COVID.
There you go. The next wave.
The next week.
Yeah, so that wraps it. That about wraps it up. CJ has the beer of the week.
So this is a segment that we do on every podcast, and this week I always try to keep it local. So this week I am featuring a beer from Nothing's Left Brewery, which is here in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and it's called Double D's Nuts. So it is it's a chocolate peanut butter stout is what it is, and their base is just called D's Nuts. And what they did was they just doubled up the amount of chocolate and peanuts that they made this stout with, and it is absolutely phenomenal. It was a kind of a limited release. I've heard that they're going to release more of that. But yeah, Nothing's Left Brewery in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Check them out. They got some really good stuff. They also have this awesome watermelon gose that is ridiculous, and it is perfect for this time of year when the weather's a little on the warm side. It's about, I think, 4.5%, 5%. I think if I may be off on that, but it's obviously an easy drinker as well.
That beer, for those of you who are Mexican, tastes like the watermelon candy, lollipops, after you lick the chili off. That's what they taste like.
Really?
Oh my God.
No, don't listen to him. False. Yeah. False.
Yeah. So
the only beer you're supposed to be drinking right now.
Eric has a taste buds of a donkey, so
his palate is trash. Yes. They basically call it a liquid watermelon Jolly Rancher.
Yeah, it's good.
And since Miguel said for the Mexicans it tastes like this, for the blacks it tastes like a watermelon. I mean, that's just the easiest way to say it. But anyway, that's our beer of the week. Check them out. Nothing's Left. Double D's Nuts.
Thank you, CJ. So that about wraps it up. Anybody have any more comments? Anything else you want to say?
Look forward to part 2.
Just want to say thank you guys for having us, and Nurses Week is the best week of the year for us. So
thank you guys.
Everybody, please, as always, continue to like our YouTube page, Manscaped-Trio, comment, subscribe. If there's any topics that you want us to discuss, make sure and comment on those. We do read those. And share when you enjoy something. Tag your friends, share it. Let us know that you're listening and you're enjoying the content that we're putting out.
Yeah.
Yes, the lady nurses here, could you please tell your coworkers that you were on a awesome podcast that's on the come up, and tell them that you were interviewed, and just let them know that we're 3 guys that have different kinds of topics, and you guys were featured this week.
You got it.
There you go. Yeah. Well, with that said, I think we've rambled long enough. This is Miguel.
This is CJ.
This is Eric.
Oh, this is Krista.
This is Brittany.
This is Fabi.
There you go.
Hey!
See you later.
It's a wrap. It's a wrap.